first year uni is when I lost my best friend, 8th of March 2021. So this is 26th of Feb. So a week on Sunday, it'd be 5 years since he passed. Still remember that day like it was yesterday. Still remember the feeling, the phone call, everything. That's when I think started to realize that all these little things of the day to day don't really matter. Like, he was battling cancer since we were 15. He had a 3.5 year battle on his 19th birthday. He was called home. Like, not to make it all about that, but that was a big thing. It was like, that was difficult to get through. And I sort of like can't even look at photos during that time because I know what that kid was going through. But that was a big one where everything changed. A lot of my relationships changed in terms of the depth of them. And it made me realize that, you're only going to get one shot. Like, I never want to be at the end of my time and look back and say, oh, if I could have gone a little bit here, or if I don't want the, it's almost like that. Oh, what's the quote? Come on, Zach, you're good at quotes.
You're the man for quotes.
If you think the price of winning is too high, wait to get the bill from regret.
Mm.
And at the end of the day, like, when our time is done, not to get all morbid, but if we get shown a slideshow of what our life could have been like, would you have tried a little bit harder where you are right now? Then yeah, you probably would have. So that is probably the turning point. His death was everything. What you see now, I'm not the same person you met in first year.
No, not at all.
And it's not a thing I'm scared of talking about. It's just that's the one thing that made you realize that, right? At the end of the day, all you really got is yourself. So that's the only person you can truly rely on. As much as you have great relationships within your friends and stuff like that, when push comes to shove, all you have is your family and you. So, yeah.
Obviously, that story, and like, you've been a very big advocate on his behalf. Like, I remember we first met like a year after, you've done events and like charity
Ran
work,
a
ran a marathon.
Brutal.
Which is so brutal. But what I guess I think would be like an overarching theme from all the work would be the idea that he inspired you.
100%.
How do you feel that in that time, in the early stages when, he was going through what he was, did you feel it in that moment where you were like, his battle is, obviously not just him, it's all of us.
Yeah.
And do you think that like seeing him go through what he did has led you to where you are now? Like, in terms of pushing yourself forward?
I think you have to. I mean, he cycled 100 miles for charity whilst battling terminal cancer. Like, his mental fortitude was just, he was like, so what? Like, at 15, to be given 6 months to live, and for him to just have that same positive mentality every single day, I was taken aback. I was like, is it just like not processing for him, or like what's really going on? And I remember going down to the cancer hospital near us, and like sitting there watching cricket with him, and he's like, "Oh, how's your day going?" I'm like, "Mate, you're like going through like intense chemo, and you're asking me about my day." That just summed him up as a person to a T, because it was all about other people. It was all about, he wouldn't want you to see him struggling. Don't get me wrong, there were times where he was, but he wouldn't say it. But he still inspires me to this day. I wish he was around. He's the person that if I need something, I still, wish he was around just to bounce ideas off of. I mean, I miss him every single day, but he's probably inspired. And don't get me wrong, whenever he passed away, that was a rough 6 months. Questioned everything, like you would do at the height of COVID as well. You couldn't go out, couldn't work out. There was no mental escape for me. There was just online Zoom calls and taking things to deal with the grief that I shouldn't have been taking. And there was one day, to be fair, and I was going for a shower, and then in Durham we had like mud rooms, right? It was like shower, sink, toilet, but it's like 2 meters. And I had to like sit down on the toilet because I was like, I can't even shower. And I was like, that's when I was like, nah, I'm not okay. And that's okay to talk about. That's okay to admit. I think it's healthy to admit. And I'm in a much better place now for seeking the help that I did when I was 18. But I've got to thank my mum because she made me go to therapy. And in 2020, it probably didn't, men's mental health didn't have the same awareness like it does to this day. And I had the stigma, which I don't now, obviously, that if you talk about, like, I grew up playing rugby and, you know, it was like, you don't ever break down. You just, you know, put up with it and you just crack on. And I went through a few therapists at the time, but yeah, there's analogies that I use even to this day about the grief, because it's not something you don't just get over grief, lose anyone that you lose. You just learn to live with it and understand they're still there with you. There's still signs that they're around every single day. And yeah, it's definitely made me who I am today. Trying to make him proud is the number one thing I tried to do, for sure.
That's wicked.
That's a
Obviously,
that's a good term.
yeah, an unexpected term, but very happy
Yeah.
it did. Like, it's great to be, like you said, like growing up in a very male dominant culture, like rugby, talking about this sort of thing isn't, you know, very common. Like, I can't, you know, I grew up playing football.
Yeah.
Can't say it's anything like the rugby culture, but
Absolute
the
athlete,
sentiment.
though, by the way. Let that be known on the podcast.
Oh, yikes, maybe not. Check the Strava out. Didn't even know. Yeah, no, it's that culture is so prevalent.
Yeah.
So prevalent. And I'd be curious to get your opinion on whether you feel that your relationship with those guys, if they still exist, or just with, I guess, people that we've known from university, have these sort of conversations around, you know, I guess, struggle and, you know, just general well-being, have they increased or appeared in later, you know, as you've gotten older, or is it a matter of they still kind of follow that same sentiment?
No, I'd say it absolutely exists to this day. I think a lot of people I still have in my life from uni saw me at my lowest times and saw me on the day where I found out that he had passed, and didn't think any less of me. I was in a very, I think in our flat of 10, I think there were 2 guys, including myself. So 8 girls. Bear in mind, I have 2 sisters. My mum, my nan lives with us. I've always been around girls. So for them, and this was March 2021, so we've been at uni for like 6 months then at the time, 7 months. For them to see me at that point, and to still stay by me, still in contact to this day, they're my best friends, is everything. But you have to open up, because it is a rough place to be if you just have an internal dialogue and you're spiraling like I was at the time. And I thought there was no way out. I thought, who am I going to talk to? My parents are 350 miles away. FaceTime isn't the same. You need to open up. And I always encourage people, even if I see them and I can just sense something's off, I won't address it there and then because maybe it's not the time, but like later that day I'll message them, like, were you all right earlier? Like, and they know, like, anything you need, I'm here. That exists for anyone, my clients, anyone in the gym. It's like, you got to make sure you're mentally in a good place. Otherwise, everything else doesn't matter, because it can be a tough place to be. And all you have is you're in your mind 24 hours, 7 days a week, however many, you know, years we have on this earth. Let's make it a good place. And let's make it a open dialogue. I think mental health is a topic that people want to post about on social media and say, you know, I'm here for men's mental health in general. But let's actually talk about it. Let's not just post it for likes and views and comments. Let's actually have conversations where it's prevalent and it's at the forefront of people's mind, because it needs to be.
It's such an interesting conversation like this, especially among guys. I feel like one thing I've come to learn as I've gotten older, and this is a controversial thing to say, actually. Oh, I didn't think I'd be saying this, actually.
Floor's yours.
I think the depth of male relationships, generally, stereotypically, right,
Yeah.
do not go to the same level that women do because
No
of the
chance.
inability to talk about this.
Yeah.
Like, as a woman, this is something that you can talk about freely with zero stigma. But as a man, and the fact of what we're judged on versus what women are judged on,
Yep.
i.e., the idea of we are just judged on our output and what we can bring to the table versus women who aren't really judged on that same sort of level. Having these conversations and trying to be open and talk about this sort of stuff isn't really encouraged.
It's that vulnerability that I think male relationships lack.
Mm.
And they want to just brush over and think, oh, yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
But no one really asks, like, no, like, how are you actually doing? Like, let's actually give it some time here and break it down. I'd love to one day there be a world and a society. Maybe we won't be in that world and society where, like, it's okay if you're not, you know. I think it's getting better now, definitely. Not that I'm in it, but in, like, the corporate world, in terms of, like, having days where you're, you know, where you don't feel it, and they're more open to talking about it. But yeah, definitely a thing that's thankfully come along in the last few years for sure.
Do you encourage this same rhetoric in the gym?
Absolutely. I think there can be a lot of obviously toxic masculinity, and every single gym is not the same. So I'll train in like a bodybuilder's gym in Croydon. And I'm not going to lie, talking about men's mental health in there, or mental health is not going to be the forefront of those minds where those guys are respectfully on steroids. But in a gym like ours, where it's a bit more, you know, we have a nice community feel. We have a better sense of depth of relationships in our gym. And I like to think I try and build that depth within the relationships to my clients, where if you ever need me, like, I am a text away. Like, you know, I can be awful replying. And I'll almost try and reply at 5 a.m. every single day so no one has to text me back right there and then because I'm awful for it. But no, honestly, jokes aside, I'm always up for a conversation. No matter if I've had the client since I started PT almost 2 years ago, or if I onboarded them last week, it's the same sentiment. I'm here for you no matter what you need in the gym, outside the gym. And I really try and push that, you know, to everyone. Even if they're not a client.
Yeah.
Come and speak to me. I'm a nice guy. I like to think.
Yeah, some would say.
Not many.
Do you think changing your body changes who you are?
Ooh. If you train, so changing your body changes who you are. Body composition, would you say?
Physical change, body composition can be it.
Yep. I would say, obviously, depending on your goal. So I think when people start to see changes and start to see the discipline they've instilled into themselves pay off, I think you then, it's almost like a positive feedback loop. You feel better about yourself. You look better. I think we are tied inherently to how we perceive we look. For example, when I first started out, I wanted to fill out my t-shirt. When I filled out my t-shirt, I felt good about myself, and that encouraged me to go back into the gym to push on. And now I don't really have physique goals. Now I just have like an overall like performance goal where the physique will come with that inherently, I think. But I would say, yeah, if you change your body, I would say the majority of people would feel better about themselves if that change in body is aligned to their goals.
Okay.
That's what I would say. I think. I don't know why I'm thinking about that question a lot. I think I gave the answer that I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I agree. I think I agree both in terms of, well, actually, I agree and I don't agree.
Hit me.
I agree that it changes, you know, your positive feedback loop, the discipline, those those sort of characteristics that come with a change of your body.
Yep.
Will obviously change your habit side, or I guess your potential priority side. But I also think not only in terms of how they perceive themselves, but just, you know, how other people perceive them will also
spot
make
on
a
the
big
money.
impact.
Yeah. So we obviously see ourselves in the mirror every single day. We don't notice the little changes. It takes, on average, they say 2 weeks for someone else to notice change in your body. And I think we inherently do care what other people think about us. No matter if
100.
people can say like, oh, I don't care what people think about me.
Yeah.
I know I sometimes fall into that, but in reality, I do.
Yeah, same.
So if someone says you look good, you're like, okay, cool, yeah.
I do look good.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, that is a spot on the money that I missed out. So credit to you, sir.